Thank you, Monica, and thank you, Metalogic, for organizing extremely emotional webinar, Vocal for Local. Usually, these kind of webinars generate so much passion that one tends to go overboard. Um, I welcome all the participants, and especially extremely honored to be part of this panel in sharing what we feel is the level playing field today as far as Atmanirbharta is concerned. So let me open my statement by saying, is it about a level playing field, or is it all about getting manufacturing to India? Now, those are two different topics, and those two need different lenses to understand. If it's level playing field, then it applies to probably a whole host of other surmountable issues that plague the development of India. But if you're talking about bringing or generating a manufacturing revolution, then yes, it is an entirely different issue. Looking from a perspective of steel, I would limit my talk on bringing manufacturing to India, and I would go to the extent of saying we have no choice. When Amartya Sen got his Nobel Prize, and he was asked a question, "What do you fear as far as your home country is concerned?" He said, economics cannot prove that a knowledge revolution can sustain without an industrial revolution. An industrial revolution has to succeed a knowledge revolution. This he said a long time ago. We've seen India has been at the forefront of knowledge revolution. We saw information technology and enabled services bring us so much of delight, honor, pride, foreign exchange, employment, but manufacturing lacked. In fact, I was trying to look at one manufacturing Make in India program that came to India in the last 5 years, which was worth in weight in salt. I could not find one such example. I'm talking in general. So we have no choice. The largest democracy on this planet, the second largest contribution to population to human mankind on this planet, the second largest producer of steel on this planet, the third largest economy on this planet, and we do not have meaningful manufacturing in this country. This is not sustainable. Manufacturing will come, has started to come. We see the green shoots. The question is, how do we accelerate and accentuate this by providing a level playing field? And this is what I mean. If you look at the Indian growth story, and if I look at 75 years, first 50 years we grew at 1.5% because we were oscillating between socialism and democracy. It was not democracy panning overall. For the good and bad of whatever wisdom prevailed then. But of course, in the next 30 years, 20, 30 years, we grew at what we call a Hindu rate of growth, 3%. Now, I'm not saying that level playing field entails corruption. I mean, corruption is corruption. A good word for corruption is lobbying. The question is, in the next 10 years, we grew by 6 to 9%. Now, I would say a level of corruption in India, as is known globally, in 1980s was far less, far more perceptible than what it was in 2000. But the question is, in 1980s, we grew at 3%, and 2003, 4, 5, 6 onwards, we grew at 6 to 7 and 9%. What are we trying to convey? That India incorporation grew only at night. When so corruption increased, the growth increased. Now, this is not how you create a level playing field. So India incorporation did not grow at night. Now the catch here is, we got our independence in 1947. South Korea got its independence in 1955, and so did Singapore. Today, countries like South Korea are 50 years ahead of us, and so is Singapore. The question is why? The question lies in the way they handle their manufacturing domain. If you would actually do a comparison of Southeast Asian economies versus India, there are 4 typical parameters that come to light. And first is, the SEA economies were very, very intensive on deployment on capital and labor. Capital in India was considered a taboo till mid-80s and 90s. Do not forget what China started in 1979 called liberalization. We started in 1991. So there was a head start of 11, 12 years. But do we now consider ourselves only 11 or 12 years behind China? Of course not. But what China did was China cast its policies in cement, and we could not do that. China cast its interest rate. They cast the renminbi against the dollar in cement, and that could lay a roadmap to great diversity and prosperity as far as manufacturing was concerned. Now, I wish we could have done that. Similarly, Southeast Asian economies are fueled by federal dispensation and governments, whereas at the center of Indian growth story is a promoter. So how do you give a level playing field to a promoter? This is the difference between Indian manufacturing scenario and Southeast Asian economies. They were hinged more on export, and we are hinged more on domestic demand and consumption. They were investment heavy, and we are consumption heavy. Now, if these are the criteria on which we have to develop a level playing field, make no mistake, this level playing field is for domestic demand or consumption, or is it for exports? Now, these two are extremely different things. If you connect, and this is a very small exercise, if you connect on the map, political map of India from Kanpur to Chennai, if you draw a straight line, you put a ruler across, draw a line from Kanpur to Chennai, would you believe 65% of prosperity of this country lies on the west side of that line? How come there's a polarization and dichotomy? Where is that level playing field? So level playing field has got 3 or 4 legs. It's got 3 or 4 ecosystems. And unless we come to understand what it takes, it can't be only anti-China bashing. It can't be anti-import bashing. It cannot be government bashing alone. It has to encapsulate the entire chain of stakeholders going forward. And what is that for? Let me give you a quick and dirty example of. So I was at a point where I was saying that level playing field for manufacturing has 4 legs, and we touched upon policy. We touched upon why we haven't been able to do that so far, and we were at cost of utilities. Of course, we cannot have interest rates which are at par with North American rates. But tell me something, why shouldn't we have cost of electricity which is at par with North American rates? Why can't we have cost of gas which is at par with China? I mean, I've seen industrial complexes in China where steam, and I'm talking about an industrial complex on a size of 10 square kilometers, where steam is supplied through a pipeline to each and every industry. Now, that is a level playing field. If they produce a product and we produce a product here, how do we come to consensus? How do we come to that it's not a cash for clunker program that I'm asking the federal dispensation to come in. So let me highlight 3 examples here quick in the next 2-3 minutes. Dunlop wanted, and these are 3 case studies that were, 2 of them were published in Harvard Business Reviews. Dunlop wanted to set up a mega production facility in this part of the world. And they said, India has English-speaking labor. India has a great climate. India is a democracy. We love it. It's a great place. We can trade. And China doesn't have all of this. And I was shocked to find out that 18 months down the line, Dunlop set up that facility in China. Now, when we dug more, they said, look, we understand the food is better in India, but the point is productivity is more in China. I said, what do you mean by productivity? He said 20 people in China produce 2,000 pairs of shoes. 20 people in India would produce only 500 pairs of shoes. The question is, do we have a responsible education system going forward? We've got millions of engineering coming into the fray, but then what quality of engineers are we producing? And that's what I would say comes in an ecosystem of institutions. We have educational institutions, knowledge institutions, and we have policy-making institutions, which is a bureaucracy. Now, this is exactly where this funnel comes in. Institutions have done great in India and provided a great level playing field where the entry level was restricted. And this is exactly what institutions and bureaucracy and excellent educational institutions were. If the entry level was restricted, everything went well. Unfortunately, business is this way. Businesses, there is no entry level for business. There's no quality business coming in. Dunlop didn't do that. India used to be the largest exporter of coconut, which went on to make coconut oil. There's a huge plantation of coconut down south. There's no reason why we say that we cannot beat Malaysia or Singapore as far as coconut farming is concerned. But if you look at today, Malaysia won the race. They export more coconut because coconut is a labor-intensive job. You need a man to climb up a tree and actually chop coconuts. What Malaysia did was They trained, they had a lot of monkeys like we have. They trained a lot of monkeys. Those monkeys used to climb up the trees and actually chop coconuts. It's an industry in Malaysia chopping coconuts using monkeys. In India, we had an animal cruelty law. 35,455 archaic laws still rule this country, which were formulated by the British. Now, I understand we should not put in harm to a living being called a monkey, but then I believe a couple of people have jailed because they were using monkeys to chop coconuts. What happened? Coconuts started being exported. Coconut prices came down. Coconut became nothing but a commodity. We lost our land allocation in China. Volkswagen went to China and said, we need 2,000 acres. They took, and this is the biopic of Volkswagen CEO. He said, they took me in a chopper. They took me to 3,500 feet and said, well, that is a piece of land that we are earmarking for you. Now at 3,500 feet, it's very difficult to say whether it's 2,000 acres, 1,000 acres, or 3,000 acres. He came down, when he was signing the contract, it said 20,000 acres. He said, excuse me, is there a problem in this contract? There's an extra zero there. He said, no, this is 20,000 acres. You wanted 2,000, we gave you 20,000 acres. Build roads, build educational institutions, build hospitals, build living quarters, then build your factory. That's the level playing field we are talking about. We are not talking about simply providing capacities and low capital. We are providing, in general, an ecosystem which can lead for manufacturing to come back to India. And this is where the entire stakeholder chain also has to understand. A great integrated steel plant has to lead this manufacturing revolution. It is a revolution. And at the head of this revolution is the promoter of the integrated steel plant. And let me quote the famous Augustine here. Revolution is a struggle not through the purity of spirit, but through the exercise of free will. If the promoter in this country does not feel free, if the promoter in this country does not feel secure, if the promoter in this country does not feel that he has to be part of the manufacturing revolution, I do not think so. There'll be ever a level playing field. So this is how I rest my case, saying, yes, all this mixed together, if we apply to steel industry, we can move from number 2 to number 2 still, but then take from where we are from 100-odd million tons to 300-odd million tons. Wishing all the best in the steel fraternity, a great level playing field, contribute, bureaucrats, politicians, federal dispensations, academics, media, institutions, promoters, everybody needs to chip in, and I'm sure we're going to be successful. Next time we have a webinar, I'm sure we're going to be at 200 million tons. Still vocal for local. Apply the 200 million tons also. Thank you, everybody, for giving me a patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shubh Gautam, for highlighting your points and giving such beautiful examples to really talk about how level playing field can be really happen.